and welcome back to another video on the JJ Think Tank. In this video I want to talk about Immanuel Kant and why he is once again extremely relevant to our postmodern, chaotic, skeptic, sophist world. As many of my viewers have probably recognized and have realized, a lot of sophists are appearing on the scene now in the online space. A lot of skeptics, sophists, gnostics, gurus, yes, who think they are better, these spiritual narcissists, who critique everything, who reject everything, all the achievements of the past, who speculate and create these grand theories, and they engage in conspiracy theories. Like excessive conspirological thinking is appearing in their mind. I mean, I've come across a lot of such thinkers recently and in the past, and I think it's a problem. Yes, I think it's a problem because this sophism, this skepticism, this gnostic way of thinking that everything's an illusion, it leads to a deluded worldview and to a form of thinking that is basically completely divorced from reality, yes? And a lot of these thinkers, they start to speculate on different topics. For example, flat Earth theory. Yes, they are returning to this view that the Earth is flat. Yes, and there's just no evidence for this. It's just pure speculation. If the Earth is flat, then what? Wouldn't it be an edge to this flat world of ours? Wouldn't we fall off it somehow? I mean, this is the thought that comes into my mind, and in general, these thinkers, they just annoy me because they have no clue what they're talking about. Really, they're trying to appear profound. They're trying to make themselves into a guru, and it's well, collectively it's having a negative impact. Yes. And I've noticed that many of these thinkers, they're quite paranoid. They're paranoid in their thoughts. They always think that there's someone out there trying to control them. That they're being persecuted. Yes. That the truth is being hidden from us in some sense. That we're constantly being manipulated. And it all stems from this conspirological type of thinking, yes? Now, I agree with some conspiracy theories. Some of them have turned out to be true, and I was in this conspiracy world since, I don't know, 2015 maybe. Started to listen to some of these conspiracy theorists, and I think when it comes to the power structure and to how the world works, I think they're right, yes. But then when it comes to metaphysics and more deeper issues, I think they start to go a bit crazy, these thinkers. Like, you can't prove what you're saying, and they start to completely subjectivize the whole world and reality, and it's dangerous, yes, because then if we don't really have a shared reality that we, that we're a part of, that we're all part of, then society starts to break down, yes, because the mind makes society, yes, and this is an issue, yes. We can see what's happening now. So there's this one YouTuber. I don't listen to him at all, but I can tell straight away that he's one of these thinkers. He's called, I think, the Broken Mirror, and he engages in a lot of sophistry and in a lot of gnostic thought. He's a bit of a spiritual narcissist. I can tell from a mile away that he's a spiritual narcissist. He just wants attention. He has no clue what he's talking about. Just some random English guy who's in Thailand. He probably took some mushrooms or something, or some other dangerous drugs, and now he's speculating on the nature of reality and rejecting everything, basically, yes. I mean, I don't want to just attack him, but I'm sure he has some interesting things to say, but at the same time, he he's wrong. He's simply wrong, yes. He needs to start some training. He needs to undergo some training in logic, in philosophy, in proper philosophy, in order to put a bit more order into his mind. Yes, because otherwise he's going to be spouting all this nonsense. Yes, thinking he's that bloody the next Jesus Christ, or the new guru of our world. Yes. So there's other thinkers like this. David Icke is one of them. There's other conspiracy theorists who fall into this gnostic trap. And it's paradoxical. It's quite ironic and paradoxical that David Icke he's created this elaborate system of thought, this whole worldview that he himself is now trapped in. He doesn't realize this. And he's lashing out. He's angry because he knows he's led by a false spirit, and now he's lashing out at everybody. He's saying everyone's wrong, only I am right. Yes. Anyway, let's go into Kant now, because I think he is relevant, and this is a book I read a few years ago. Because obviously, if you try to read Kant directly, it's a bit boring, yes? It's better to read kind of a summary of his work. So this is one book that I recommend. It's written by Sebastian Gardner. And then there's this one as well. My microphone nearly fell off. And then there's this one as well by Anthony Savile, Kant's Critique of Pure Reason and Orientation to the Central Theme. So these guidebooks are a good way to kind of understand the issues, yes, and why they're so important, because now we can see that they are important. We need to fight back against this radical skepticism, world is an illusion, bro, this kind of thought, yes, because collectively it will eventually have a negative impact on all of us. We need to put some common sense into these thinkers. So obviously there's so many schools of philosophy, yes. There's empiricism that bases reality on what we can perceive, yes, what we can see, smell, touch, etc. This is an empiricist school of thought associated with David Hume mainly. Naturalism. So I guess naturalism is, in a way, I guess it's similar to empiricism. This is how I understand it, but it's rooted in biology. I might be wrong here, but let me check. Naturalism, philosophy. What is this exactly? Oh, naturalism is only natural laws and forces operate. Okay, I was incorrect. So it asserts that nothing exists outside the physical material world, explicitly rejecting supernatural or divine explanations. Yes, so I mean, it's similar to empiricism, because empiricism also it doesn't recognize the existence of something above the natural laws. Yes, it doesn't believe in the existence of God. It only empiricism only bases its worldviews on sense perception, yes, and the data that we obtain from sense perception, etc. Then there's skepticism. So skepticism, kind of, I think, well, skepticism is useful. Obviously, I think everyone is a skeptic to a degree, because if you're a skeptic, it means that you're thinking. Yes, you're thinking critically about everything you are taught. Yes, but the problem with skepticism is that eventually, if you become this massive skeptic, then we can see where you end up. You start to reject everything, like history, everything about history. You reject the past. You think the past is not important, and you end up rejecting the achievements of the past. You don't understand that history is a process, a process, an important process that we need to reflect on, and you end up with these nonsense worldviews. Yes, like gnosticism, sophism, etc. Yes. And then there are all these analytical schools of philosophy that are based on logic and the analysis of language itself. These philosophies are useful as well because perhaps when we really start to think rigorously about language, how we use language, then it can clarify some issues because philosophy sometimes the problems that philosophy poses, it's really just a misuse of language. Yes, they're creating problems where there actually aren't any. This is how I understand the analytical school of philosophy. Yes, I want to get actually more acquainted with this school because I think it's very useful because it's so rigorous. It's based on logic, and I think this can help. It can really help kind of bring more order and clarity to your life. Before I much preferred the continental school of philosophy, which is associated with Europe, with German thinkers, French thinkers, yes, mainly. Yeah, but the analytical school is useful, and I intend to become more acquainted with it. But why is Kant so brilliant? Kant is brilliant because he tried to he tried to I guess bridge the gap between the two. He tried to link empiricism with rationalism. Yes, he this is how I understand Kant. I might be wrong. Obviously, I don't think I've read this one. I haven't read this book yet, but I read maybe just part of it, but not all of it. I've only read this, and it was a few years ago. So perhaps now, because I'm recounting, I might be incorrect. But this I understand Kant in this way. He gave credence both to the subject, but also to the outside world. Yes, he understood the importance of the subject, how the subject, to a degree, creates his own reality. But then he also gave credence to our objective reality that we don't really have control over, that actually impacts us. Yes, and he kind of tried to bridge the gap between the two, and by doing this, he tried to highlight the limits of knowledge and how much we can know. Yes, and he tried to I guess he tried to save metaphysics in a sense. This is how I interpret Kant at the moment. Obviously, after Kant died, some philosophers, some thinkers, analysts agreed with him. Perhaps they noticed that he was this thinker who managed to bridge the gap, who instituted this Copernican Revolution. Yes. So let's see what this actually means. Revolution. Is that? Oh, this is in Polish. Zmiana paradigmy świat zaczyna dost. Can't just cover this in English for now. The idea that in philosophy is the idea that the human mind does not passively conform to the external world. Instead, objects must conform to our cognitive structures. Let's conform. So, well, I guess okay. So he gives greater credence to the subject. Yes, but he still, as I understand it, he still recognizes that there is a world outside of us. Yes, it's not that there's an illusion. Yes, there's still something out there, but that we kind of shape it. We interact with it. It interacts with us, and we interact with it. Yes, and this is why he now he created such a legacy after his death. Yes, he instituted this Copernican revolution. Yes, so the traditional view, the mind conforms to objects. Kantian view, objects conform to the mind. Now here, this is important because with this statement, objects conform to the mind, it shows the power of humans. That humans are, in some sense, yes, we are the center of the universe. Yes, we as humans, we are special because if objects conform to the mind, it means that we can shape our reality to a degree. Yes. But now, obviously, it's interesting because we have this radical view of philosophy called object-oriented ontology, or radical realist philosophy, which states that we're actually not the center of the universe. Objects outside of us are. And this is the eternal conflict between idealism and realism. I guess, and this is I want to repeat my point here, that I think Kant, he tried to bridge the gap, yes, between realism and idealism. Obviously, it's always difficult, yes. It's difficult to do this because it's a very tricky balancing act, and I just really think Kant is relevant, yes, to our world now, because I think now we have a lot of these radical philosophies that either overemphasize the subject's experience, which leads to this collective and individual narcissism, this gnosticism, sophism, skepticism, radical skepticism. But then also we have these radical philosophies that state that the human is worthless. Yes, the human is not the center of the cosmos. Yes, that we're just kind of nobodies, just floating in space. Yes, and we're at the mercy of all these forces around us. So I think Kant he's still relevant. He's still relevant, and philosophers who came after Kant, they expanded on what he said and perhaps noticed his flaws. I know that Heidegger did this. Yes, with Being and Time, Heidegger thought that he managed to kind of dispel the idea of metaphysics, because Kant still believed in metaphysics. This is how I interpret Kant. He still viewed that metaphysics is relevant. Yes, it won't go away. Whereas Heidegger, through his philosophy, dispelled the idea of metaphysics. Yes, this is my understanding. So, I guess what I wrote down here, I tried to kind of write what I know about Kant in my own words. And what is brilliant about Kant's philosophy is how he manages to lay out a system that gives credence both to the subject as perceiver and the object, where the object is conceived as appearance to us, but also by its inherent nature apart from ourselves in space and time, the kind of thing in itself, yes? And I think this is an important distinction. And this critique of pure reason, this is Kant's most important book. It highlights kind of the limits of our knowledge, yes? It puts the brakes on our knowledge, on our arrogance, our pride, I guess, and all these kind of reference points that he includes prevent us from falling into these traps, yes, these absurd worldviews and philosophies, like the ones I mentioned above, yes? Empiricism, naturalism, skepticism, etc. And He's an important bridge, basically. I think between different philosophers and philosophies. Anyway, moving on. I want to cover my article here because perhaps I wrote down something here in the past that could be useful now to discuss. So yeah, I guess transcendental idealism. I guess we can equate this to how within our mind we have this capacity to kind of order reality around us, and I guess this idea is reflected in the modern world, the postmodern world, with thinkers and people saying, "Oh, you can shape your reality, create your reality." I mean, to a degree, I think they are right. Yes, this is true. You can change your life. Yes, you're not at the mercy of external forces. You do have some locus of control. It's true, but it's just at the same time you can't fall into delusion and then think that you control kind of everything. Yes, you start you are the center of the universe. That reality then becomes an illusion. All this nonsense. Yes, I hope you understand kind of what I'm trying to get at here. Because Kant, you recognise this, but you also put a break on what we can know. Yes, and this philosophy of Kant, it prevents delusion. Basically, it's a way of preventing delusion. And again, what I said before, his philosophical move allows one to finally understand why the notions of God, soul, and morality are necessary. It's not about whether they exist or not. It's about why they're kind of necessary. Yes, you can believe, you cannot believe. Personally, I am an agnostic at this moment in time, perhaps, or I lean towards the idea that God does exist. I'm kind of in between at the moment, in my intellectual development and at this stage in my life. Yes, but Kant allows us to understand why they are necessary. Why, even though perhaps according to empirical view we can't find them. Yes, there's no firm basis in reality. Yes, in sense perception we can't see God, like in a sense, in a typical sense perception. Yes, like here I'm looking. Obviously, directly when I'm looking at this pen, I won't see inscribed somewhere, "Hey, God." Yes. I guess this is where the empiricist he misses the forest for the trees. I love this idiom. Yes, this English idiom. I think it really does clarify a lot. Misses the forest for the trees. Misses the forest for the trees is an idiom that means someone is too focused on minor details to understand the bigger picture. Yes, this is the problem. This is the trap that empiricists fall into. Yes, I think as well. But they are useful. I mean, empiricists are useful because science is based on empiricism. Yes, and through empiricism we discover more about the world. So I mean, I respect empiricists more than sophists and gnostics and all these types of thinkers. Yes, I do respect empiricists much more. And so yes, here I included an important quote from Gardner's book. So Sebastian Gardner, here's the book, and it talks about Hegel's reception to Kant's philosophy, and it matched my suspicions of Hegel's worldview being being markedly objectified. So I've never been a big fan of Hegel, to be honest. I prefer other philosophers. I mean, obviously Hegel he made obviously he made a massive impact. He left a legacy after his death. So I guess Hegel, he was clearly onto something. But this is what Gardner wrote about Hegel. Yes. So for Hegel, the philosophical subject is taken over by what Hegel, calls Geist, spirit, a genuinely universal, impersonal subject of thought that has priority over the plurality of personal or individual self-consciousness and an innate relation with man's social existence. It takes over the role of the eye of apperception. I mean, perhaps reading this now, maybe I agree more with Hegel, because obviously I wrote this 2 years ago. Yes. I mean, I've never read any of Hegel's works directly. I've never read Hegel. I mean, I've read one book by Zizek, and obviously he's massively influenced by Hegel. So I don't know what to think really at the moment in time. I've always been drawn to other philosophers rather than Hegel, but there's another thinker, E. Michael Jones. I think he's quite influenced by Hegel. E. Michael Jones. He's a philosopher, Catholic philosopher. E. Michael Jones. He has a lot of great books about philosophy. So Logos, A History of Ultimate Reality, Logos Rising. So I haven't read this book yet, but I plan to get it one day and read it. Yes. He made a massive impact on me, E. Michael Jones, and he's a great thinker. So, and then this is what I wrote. For Hegel, concepts which constitute reality are entities with real, semi-Platonic status, to which subjectivity is subordinated, and so the subject does not bring about the relation of concepts to objects, but only discerns them. And then I wrote that Hegelian view is false, and Kant's view as the subject seems to be more accurate. Let's read this again, because this is now when I'm reading this, I'm finding this quite difficult. So for Hegel, concepts which constitute reality are entities with real semi-Platonic status, to which subjectivity is subordinated, and so the subject does not bring about the relation of concepts to objects, but only discerns them. Okay, I see. So basically the subject is a bit more passive, whereas Kant views the subject as being more important in the creation of concepts, I guess, to objects. This is how I understand it now, reading this. So, I mean, every philosophy is slightly different, yes? I mean, overall, I think Kant, for the common citizen, for the common man, I think Kant is more relevant and more important than Hegel, yes. Because I think Hegel sometimes he falls into this world of spirit, the world spirit, and his work is very metaphysical, yes. Hegel's work is more metaphysical even than Kant's, yes. Kant was more grounded in empiricism, in rationalism, which is why I think Kant is more useful. But at the same time, why Kant was so brilliant, because he wasn't so arrogant and cocky that he did away with the soul, with God, morality. He noticed why they are necessary. This is why Kant is brilliant. I mean, he's definitely one of my favourite philosophers, because for the regular citizen, for the regular man, the common man, Kant is brilliant because he gives so much clarity to your worldview, I think, and like a good common sense worldview, basically. And I really recommend. Well, obviously, I haven't read this whole book, but it's quite short. You can see it's quite short. So this is one guide to Kant's work called Kant's Critique of Pure Reason, an orientation to the central theme by Anthony Savile. And then this is the one I read. This is another guidebook written by Sebastian Gardner. So yes, I recommend everyone to return to Kant, to read some guidebooks on Kant, and these guidebooks will help you to understand his thoughts and why his philosophy is so important, especially in the modern world. Yes, because I think at the moment we have this blind trust, yes, in science, technology, to the detriment of other pursuits. Yes, so science and technology is clearly pedestalized over the arts and humanities. It's pretty obvious, at least in the West. I don't know how it is elsewhere. And we have this blind trust in empiricism. Yes, trust the science, trust the science. The scientists have become kind of the new priest class, we could say. This is dangerous as well, because scientists can be evil, yes? People can use science for evil ends. And yeah, so when I was reading this book, I wrote down that I I enjoyed refreshing my memory, yes, with the terms a priori, a posteriori. So this is a key two concepts that Kant emphasizes, and then their relations to analytical and synthetical judgments. So perhaps I'll save this for another video because I don't want to talk more at this stage. And yes, well, but before I finish, with regards to technology, Heidegger obviously is the best, I think. Heidegger's thought when it comes to technology is the most enlightening. And I've mentioned this a couple of times already, but Heidegger's book, The Question Concerning Art and Technology, is a very important book, in my opinion, concerning technology. Is an essay by Heidegger. And it questions, yes, whether modern technology is ultimately good for us or not. I guess it depends on the subject, yes. If you're able to use technology with intention, with intentionality, then yes, it's not bad. But obviously, you can use technology in a negative way. So, for example, when I was a teenager, I spent a lot of time playing, computer games. Well, not a lot of time. My dad, obviously, he disciplined me. I didn't play too much, but I mean, this was a world. These computer games, they're just a completely different world, right? You enter a different world. So as a child, obviously, they're quite enticing, yes, because there's a completely different world on the screen, yes. But I think as you grow up, it's important to escape from this world because it's not real, is it? Really, it's not real at the end of the day. So yes, that's the end of my video. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found out something interesting about Kant, why he's so important, a massive, very important thinker, Immanuel Kant, I think. So relevant to the modern world and to the common man like me, and to everyone out there. And using these guidebooks, you can really understand the brilliance of Kant, yes. And here we've got a painting of him. So yes, that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you liked the video, consider liking and subscribing. It will help me grow the channel. If you like the video even more, consider donating at Buy Me a Coffee. I'll provide a link in the description. But yes, if you made it this far, I really appreciate it. I appreciate you spending your time here on the JJ Think Tank. And that's all for today. Take care.